Okay, we are coming back from closed session. And we have no reportable action.
Correct. No reportable action.
Okay. At this time, we're going to close the meeting and take a 5-minute break and be back about 6:01. Thank you. Have no air in the restroom. Okay. I could do it down there. It's fine. Okay. Okay. Okay, are we ready to start the regular city council meeting? Okay, welcome everyone. Selma City Council regular meeting, July 17, 2023 at 6:04. It says teleconference phone number is 1-301-715-8592. Webinar ID is 891-6864-5005. When on the phone, if you wish to address council during the public comment portion of the agenda, press 9 to raise your hand and we will select you from the meeting queue. Press 6 to unmute or mute yourself. Call to order. Roll call.
Councilmember Guerra,
Here.
Councilmember Mendoza Navarro.
Here.
Councilmember Trujillo.
Here. Okay, invocation is led by Pastor Jesse Alvarez at the Valley Life Community Church. Welcome.
Good afternoon, everyone. What an honor and a privilege it is to be. Let's begin before we pray. The team, giving verse number 1. Established by God. Consequently, whoever rebels against the authority or from fear, fight, and you will be commanded. Authority is God's servant for your good. God's servants. Therefore, it is only because of possible punishment, but a matter of conscience. This is how you pay taxes for the God's servant who give their full time to governing. Taxes, pay taxes. If revenue, then revenue. If respect, then respect. Honor, then honor. Another. For whoever loves others has fulfilled the law. The commandments, you shall not adultery, you shall not murder, you shall not steal. Up in this one command, love your neighbor as yourself. Love does no harm to a neighbor. Therefore, love is a fulfillment. Shall we pray? Almighty God, we come before you in the name of your holy Son, Jesus Christ of Nazareth, who came to the world 2,000 years ago to die upon that cross, shed his blood, and atone for the sin. Thank you, Lord Jesus Christ of Nazareth, that you rose again from the dead, are alive and well today in this world. Thank you, Lord, that you are in this council right now at this very moment. Gratitude and appreciate having established government, both locally, statewide, Lord, that you recognize each of these individuals as servants, public service. I pray your blessings upon their individual lives, their homes, and their families. I pray rich blessings, Lord, over those that are married in their marriages, in their finances, those that have protection. I do also ask and pray in the name of Jesus Christ of Nazareth, the Son of God, that Lord, you will bless this council and every member, wisdom that comes from above, and the fear of the Lord. The Bible says in Proverbs 1:7, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. Execute accordingly. May you bless them with divine guidance, that even in those moments, quite sure of the decision that they are to make, Father in heaven, to follow the instinct that you give them. Peace in our city. We pray in the name of the Lord Christ, that just as in the word of God, you command us to pray for those that are in authority. May you, Lord, use them and bless them so that there's righteousness of these communities. We thank you, Lord, for this opportunity that you give us. Balance in the remaining of the day, that Lord, when all of us have walked away from this gathering, that there will be a thought and awareness that, Lord, that this was blessed by Almighty God. And we pray these things in the wonderful, holy, almighty, powerful name of the resurrected Son of God, Jesus Christ. Pray, and we thank you. And everyone, and
Amen.
God bless you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Pastor. Let's please stand for the flag salute. Ready? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this time, potential conflict of interest. Any council member who has a potential conflict of interest may now identify the item and recuse themselves from discussing and voting on the matter. Agenda changes or deletions. To better accommodate members of the public or an inconvenience in order of presentations, items on the agenda may not be presented or acted upon in the order listed. Additions to the agenda may be added only pursuant to the California Government Code Section 54954.2b. Oral communications. Notice to the public. At this time, any member of the public may address City Council regarding any item over which the council has jurisdiction. No action or discussion will be taken at any time not on the agenda. Issues raised will be referred to the city manager for review. Members of the public shall limit their remarks to 3 minutes. At this time, anyone from the public would like to come up and address the council?
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Michael Edward Muleman. Here on behalf of myself, my fiance, Devon Louise Ireland. Over the past few months, we've been hearing about the final officer Carrasco. So what we've generated is a picture with him and his son, and it's a Gonzalo Carrasco Junior Education Foundation, not fundraiser. So we have the first donation of $50 here, and we're asking everybody under the color of law to contribute to the foundation, not a fundraiser. So his son knows his father was here and he has an education. The family does not have to pay for it. So if anybody under the color of law can help donate a portion of their check to help the son. We know he's taking care of you guys, but as well, not to only help his son, but other children who fall victims to their fathers in the fire department or anybody else that's lost a child to further their education, because God believes the children are our future. So I'd like to present this to the city council. Officer Alfred if you would like to join us, and you can display that in your office. First, make sure you get this. No, I have a separate picture right here for his family. This is a separate one, and here's the first $50. Like I said, we will get, this is for the fund, for the foundation. We're gonna contribute $100 for the next 12 months for my social security check to his foundation. Thank you, sir. And we appreciate you guys' time and patience, and we thank you guys for having us, and thank you guys. If I can just leave this with you, pass my to city council. God bless you guys. You guys have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Jesse Crouch, and I wanted to, I know that there's something on the agenda for you guys to talk about food trucks, but this is unrelated to that. That's special events, and what I wanted to start the conversation was about the food handlers or the peddlers in one specific location, a consistent location where they could show up and it not be city owned, but it would be like a private thing. Years ago, I had a food truck, and it was frustrating knowing that I could only set up for 15 minutes and I'd have to move, right? And that's not really practical for a food truck it takes longer to set up than 15 minutes. So I don't know the process as far as getting that revised. I know you guys are talking about it later in regards to special events. This wouldn't be necessarily a special event. This would be a permanent place, semi-permanent place, right? So it would, an empty lot with restrooms and everything else, a lot of amenities that wouldn't just happen on the street. Because when we have a special event on the street, there's no, well, sometimes we get restrooms and stuff like that. But just to be able to have like a gazebo gardens or something similar to that nature. Are we familiar with gazebo gardens? Or like a set place in Fresno. It's just a little frustrating when we go at other smaller communities that have a motif that are particular about how the city looks. And they're able to have food trucks and this and that. And there's an easier path for them. You know, if we had a consistent, you know, not just a Mod Podge here and there or on the outskirts, you know, how many do we have in the outskirts of Selma? You know, and why not bring that downtown or close to downtown in a focal point with clean, covered, you know, consistent availability to get people to come downtown. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public? Okay. Okay, at this time, we're going to go to special presentations. A certificate of recognition to the Gowada Guru Kalinda Savi. I will come down and make the presentation. Would you guys like to come up now? Thank you, Mindy. Got everyone? Okay. City of Selma Certificate of Recognition presented to the Gowada Guru Kalinda Sai. On behalf of the citizens of Selma and the Selma City Council recognizes you for your service to the community. The city and the community are proud of your efforts in making a positive change, and we applaud your efforts in our community. Presented this 17th day of July 2023 by Mayor Scott Robertson, Mayor Pro Tem Beverly Cho, and the council members Sarah Guerra, Blanca Mendoza Navarro, and John Trujillo. So
Thank you.
I want to thank you guys.
Really.
Thank you all. Okay, we have our next presentation for Parks and Recreation Proclamation.
Okay, good evening. If I could have the park staff, our community services director, Amy Smart, Liz Martinez, our recreation supervisor, and Julissa. I don't know your last name, sorry. Come on up here. So this is a proclamation. It's officially Parks Makes Life Better Month. And so the city council, the management team wanted to recognize our parks department and for the great work that they do, for making parks a central focus of the community of Selma. You know, parks are critical to the quality of life for any community. They provide recreational space. They provide a place for community to gather, to come together, to develop relationships. And they're also important for, you know, the health and wellness of the community. So it's really important to recognize the folks that maintain our parks, our public works department as well. We don't have any folks from Public Works, but they do a lot of work all year to make sure that our parks are well maintained, our playgrounds, our trees, our open spaces, our trails, our paths, our walking paths at Shaver Park. It's a lot of work that goes into it. And so I just wanted to summarize this proclamation. It's a pretty lengthy one, but I'll kind of just read the main points of it. This proclamation recognizes the importance of equitable access to local parks, recreation, trails, open space, and facilities for the positive development of all Californians and their communities. We therefore declare the month of July 2023 as Parks Make Life Better Month. Whereas the California Park and Recreation Society has released a statewide public awareness campaign, Parks Make Life Better, to inform citizens of the many benefits of utilizing parks, facilities, programs, and services. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the citizens of California and Selma recognize the importance of access to local parks, trails, open space, and facilities for the health, wellness, development, inspiration, and safety of all Californians. And now, therefore, be it further resolved that we, Mayor Scott Robertson, Mayor Pro Tem Beverly Cho, and Council Members Sarah Guerra, Blanca Mendoza Navarro, and John Trujillo do hereby proclaim and declare the month of July 2023 as Parks Make Life Better Month. Thank you.
Okay, next, introduction of new staff.
So it doesn't appear that any of our new public works staff are in attendance tonight. So we will see if the next meeting they'll be able to attend.
Okay. So we'll move on to consent calendar. All items listed under the consent calendar category are considered routine. The complete consent calendar will be enacted by one motion by roll call vote. For purpose of discussion, any council member may have an item removed from the consent calendar and made part of the regular agenda. The council can then approve the remainder of the consent calendar. Does any council member like to pull any items off the consent calendar?
I would like to pull 2 and 8.
2 and 8? Okay. 2. Would council like to approve the agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the rest. One through 9 with the exception of 2 and 8.
I'll second it.
Councilmember Trujillo,
Yes.
Councilmember Guerra,
Yes.
Councilmember Mendoza Navarro.
Yes.
Thank you.
And so, item
to two.
2, the reason I pulled it is more of a, just to clarify, and so this resolution was because, was approved back in December of 2019. It looks like initially was approved back in 2019, but that money, through the previous council, I guess, was moved to use the CDBG funds for sidewalks. And so this had to do with sewers, right? The sewer infrastructure. So, I just kind of wanted to just note that thank you so much for getting this, done. I know that, our decisions, when we make decisions on certain projects, it may cost us more money. So in this case, I think it's costing us, or it's costing the city, an extra 463,000 roughly, because of the fact that we delayed it for like 3 years, right? Is that correct?
Yes, the cost has significantly risen since 2020 for these improvements. The plan was always for SKF and the city to share the cost. But because of the rise in cost, the city's share itself increased. The council at that time decided to reallocate the CDBG funds for the downtown improvements. But it's not until now that we were able to budget from the streets funds for this project.
Perfect. Okay, I just, again, just making sure that when we're prioritizing some of the things, I know you guys are doing a great job, staff is doing a great job to get these things, but some of the decisions that we're making today or as council, they do have an effect and an impact for later. So these are things that we have this, foresee. So I'm really excited that you guys were able to, get this work done. But, I know this is affecting a couple of projects that we have in line already, but yeah, we could have just saved a lot of money. So just wanted to point that out. With that, I don't have any other questions. I don't know if my colleagues have any discussions.
No.
Questions? Nope.
Then
You want to do one by one or you want to motion them both together?
I'd like to motion, yeah, individually. So with that, I can make a motion to approve item 2.
I'll second.
Actually, yes.
We can do that. The public, if you have any comments, please come up.
Louis Franco, 1064 Mill Street. Just a curiosity question. It looks like you guys are going to approve this, and once approved, do you have a timeline of when the project will start or get done?
City engineer, is the bid package ready to go out for this project? Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, the project has been bid. This action before you is to award the project to Floyd Johnson. Within the next 10 days or so, we will have a pre-construction meeting. And at that meeting, we talk about the timeline. In the specifications for this project, it has a duration that's required for the project. I don't know that off the top of my head, but for the last few projects, it's been about 40 days.
Thank you.
Anyone else from the public? No? Okay, we'll bring it back to council.
I made a motion and you seconded it.
Yes. Still stand with my second.
Councilmember Mendoza Navarro,
Yes.
Councilmember Trujillo,
Yes.
Councilmember Guerra,
Yes.
motion passes.
And then item 8. So this one here, I don't know. I'm kind of wanting to table it only because there's a lot more questions that I have on here. And there were, I don't know if you guys have I believe you guys have had meetings already regarding the second chance animal shelter. And I don't know if the conversations have been around these items where we're needing to have these reports now before we move forward. One of the things that I did look at was to, make it a month to month, not not to exceed December 31st. And I think right now it actually reads that it's through December 31st, but I'd actually like to do a month to month, not to exceed up to December 31st, 2023. And then possibly, seeing what else we can um, do on here. And then I'm not sure as far as the way that the revisions are, it had item on the exhibit A, it had subsection 0 before subsection O before subsection M. I don't know if that makes a difference, but I did read that.
Okay.
I don't know if you have any other
Yeah,
comments.
I have a question with the city attorney. Are we privy to discuss this item on open session?
Yes, I mean, this contract has to be approved in open session. I mean, if you want to
Okay,
talk about
so I was just making it clear. because I know-
litigation
yeah.
or anything like that, that obviously would
Okay.
stay in closed session.
And,
but-
and I want to make sure that that's cleared because we have had other conversations in regards to this.
Correct.
Rolling back with the actual contract and reviewing this, we sit here and we look at, the agencies that we provide financial money to, and I don't right now at this point, I don't feel comfortable agreeing to be giving monies to an organization that has not, from what I understand, given us the financials that we need. But I was in agreement to, give it the length of time because our staff's going to get involved. But I'm 100% behind that we need an agency taking care of the animal shelter. I'm 100% behind that. Where I'm a little bit more confused as to is that, me as a resident of our community, and we're approving a board that's still out on social media asking for more money and asking because they need the money. And my questions come to mind as to what, when, where, why. And that's what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to ask for due diligence before I approve something. So I would ask that, I fully agree that we do need to fund it until we find a resolution. But I would also ask that we would do our due diligence to make sure that the money we're given is actually being utilized to the best of its ability. So those are the questions I have before I even entertain approving this.
My question is, city manager, I thought we approved to allow about 3 months for you to get some of this information and bring it back to council. Were we working on a time frame for you to get some of the information?
No, the council approved extending the contract through the end of December for 6 months. It was part of the budget, $30,000 per month. Within 2 to 3 months, we were going to, as a council and staff, revisit the progress that the shelter has made
Okay,
and then make it a determination. And it could be sooner, whenever the council would like to revisit the new contract to determine whether the city council would like to go to bid for a new service provider, to consider other options. That's on the table between now and December 31st,
Right.
whenever the council would like to
Okay.
revisit that.
I think that's where the that's where the confusion's at. My notes that I took were that we were gonna authorize an X amount of money to get them out of the hole. And we were directed our staff to go back and review with them and talk to them. And we would approve all the way to December, but we would come back with some concrete maybe direction from the board, so the board we can understand, because we understand that the board is there's some issues. And I feel that, but that's where the confusion's at for me.
The
that's where
contract
misconnection is.
expires or has expired, and so it's necessary to renew it
right.
to be able to continue the services. There was emergency funding that was granted to the shelter, 55,000 to cover expenses that they were behind on, payroll and such. And the city attorney can correct me if I'm wrong, but then the council also voted at that time when they approved the emergency funding to also authorize 30,000 per year, which was then added to the budget, which was approved before July 1st. in either case, a new contract needs to be put in place to be
Right.
able to procure the services until the city council makes a decision about which direction it wants to go in. But all of the requirements that the city council indicated they wanted to see as part of any additional funding have been put in place into this amendment. So staff being on the board of directors for the Second Chance Animal Shelter, providing monthly financials, which they have provided for the month of June. And staff reviewed it. I went back and forth with Parveen, the executive director, asked questions about what their funding, it appears that they are going to be expending more money in July than what they're taking in, but they, we have to keep monitoring that so that they don't go over the funds that they're receiving. But the main thing that the council wanted to see was to make sure that they weren't taking on more animals, more dogs that they can actually house at the shelter, because not only is that an issue in terms of space, but also it increases their costs, which is why, aside from payroll, it's all the dog food and the maintenance expenses is what's making them go over budget. So we're working with them on that. Besides the board, the council also requested for their staff to be trained by the city in terms of accounting, in terms of police department and animal control. And so those are implemented into the new amendment. So if there's anything else, we can amend, the council can approve this amendment with the change that Councilmember Mendoza Navarro has proposed. City Attorney, if you have a different opinion than that, I think the Second Chance Animal Shelter, they have to take it back to their board for approval, but if they have any changes to make, they weren't opposed to any of the things that the council requested. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with the city manager. The council has already indicated the monthly fee of $30,000. So all this is meant to do is now to put in place those things that we feel are going to protect the city's money, which is getting the reports, controlling the amount of dogs, having the city involved in hiring, and also having a seat on the board, which none of that stuff the city is necessarily entitled to at this point, even though we would be increasing the amount that we are giving them. So this ultimately will protect the city and protect the city's money.
So quick question. So this already has gone to their board.
Yes.
Okay, this contract. And so I just wanted to do the month to month, not to exceed December 31st, but this language would still protect us that that we would just not exceed it till December 31st, right? I don't necessarily have to have, I would like to see the month to month, but if it's already gone to the board, their board.
Well,
then-
no, I mean, they couldn't go back and if they don't want to accept our changes, then, it'll have to come back to us, but there's nothing stopping the council from making that a requirement of any additional funding. At the end of the day, what they're looking for is additional funding. I think an extra, making it month to month would not be a deal breaker for them.
Okay, yeah, I'm okay with the money. It's just I don't want it to
Exactly.
exceed December 31st. But I want it to have language to say month to month, then that'll give us, an opportunity to see where they're at.
So
on a
currently the
monthly
contract
basis.
requires a 60-day notice to the shelter to terminate the contract. We can eliminate that and make it, the council can terminate the contract at the end of the month and choose not to renew it on a monthly basis. If that's the language that the council would like to.
Mm,
But regardless, the way it's written now, the contract would end on December 31st, 2023, assuming we were not able to meet.
Okay, then I'm okay with,
So I'm not privy to, I don't disagree, but there's a little bit of confusion to what we thought we had come to an agreement with, but I need to see, or I'm asking for our staff to start immediately getting involved and getting its financials. And they should be done monthly. And they shouldn't be periodic, they should be monthly. And we also should be working on getting a plan. I thought we had discussed that in that conversation, that we had directed our staff to go and get agencies that are out out and about and get their decisions or get their understanding of what they would do to give us and get an outside opinion and get a second thought or second opinion as to what it would cost us to send this out to RFP or, and that's my understanding. That's what I thought. I also thought we were gonna go to month. I also thought we had just given them 55,000 and yes, 30,000 and yes, we budgeted, but I actually thought that we're gonna be more hands-on in getting in there because I think that right now the board is, it's not, I'm not saying they're doing a great job. They're volunteering, but being a great volunteer versus, you know, spending community money is two things. And so that's my opinion. I feel that we need to get in there and really get in the books. And I think if we start working on it now, I don't want to go in December and guess what? We didn't do nothing about it. And we didn't talk about it and we're here, we're going to give them another year. So that's my one. That's my one.
So the contract, the amendment calls for weekly, monthly, quarterly expense, revenue and expense reports. We did receive, I have been asking them for those reports and we are reviewing them, questioning expenses and such. So that will continue until the contract, or until the council decides to end the contract.
Also, city manager, in the information that my understanding is here you've stipulated reducing the total amount of animals at the shelter to 60 within 3 months. So my understanding is I thought we were going to come back like the end of September and see where we are because we were at 140 some dogs and we got to get them down to 60.
Correct.
So my understanding is I thought we were providing 3 months to help them get to that. And then you bring that to us. I understand we're not going to exceed after December. I mean, we know that we provided funding to get them, number one, out of the situation they were in. Number two, to continue providing the service that we need because we all know that we need the service. But I think we're looking for some concrete information, at least by the end of September,
Yep.
so that we can make those decisions.
So the amendment stipulates within 3 months, which puts us at September, that they'll get down to that target of 60. Mhm.
And to add, they have to provide monthly reports on kind of their description of their current capacity, that list of things. So in September, we will have several reports, as long as they're following this, to bring to you guys about where they're at with capacity and all of those things as well.
Okay.
Are those reports coming with financial bank statements?
Yes.
Okay.
And
Perfect.
in the meantime, staff is already researching, to Councilman Trujillo's point, researching additional service providers that we may be able to contact for proposals and second opinions about what services would be a better fit for the city of Selma.
I just had a few questions, but there's no comments from the public.
Okay. Any comments from the public?
Doris from 3838 South Locan, Selma, California. Excuse my ignorance, but wouldn't it be a lot easier if Selma would be able to take this as a Selma agency? I mean, growing up, we had part here, we had our dog catchers was run by the city and it ran real good. And I mean, my daughter just took the dog in and get some things and there's kind of prices there. I mean, there's some revenue coming in from that. So, I mean, I don't know if that'd be something that you guys would consider doing, is bringing that in and, I mean, having that one of our departments. That'd be I mean, would that be possible? Or is that doable?
Well, Chief, do you want to answer that?
The city of Selma used to have animal control umbrella with under the police department's division many years ago. It is a difficult division to run. At that time, when when our animal control personnel were not available, which was a lot, our police officers were tasked with that position or with that assignment. In the numerous demands that we're asked of our police personnel in these days, it would just be extremely overwhelming. And I don't think that we'd be able to provide the service that's expected from someone that specializes in just dealing with animals and animal control. And just to add additionally, I've looked at the budget, what the Second Chance was getting, and it is a very expensive operation. If you look at the SPCA, they're constantly looking for donations. They get a large amount of money from outlying agencies and are still having difficulties meeting the demands of running such an operation. And I think that's pretty much clear across the state of California, especially with our labor costs. So I'm sure there are some revenues that come in, but nothing that will add up to what the cost is, the overhead. And that's given that we have volunteers running it. So it's extremely intensive.
Thank you, Chief.
Teresa Salas, 1701 Danube Avenue. What is going to happen? What are the consequences if Second Chance does not meet the things that you're asking them to do, reduce the number of the dogs, et cetera? What are the consequences to that? Do we just automatically terminate the contract? Do we keep giving them more money to make this happen? Because it's like you gave them $55,000 all at once, just to bail them out. And you're going to be giving them $30,000 every month for the next 6 months. That's a lot of money. And where do we go from here if they can't accomplish what you want them to accomplish?
If I may, Councilmember Guerra, the analysis that staff has done is that roughly it takes about, even for a city smaller than the city of Selma, at least $200,000 a year to run a animal shelter that meets, code requirements and is effective. The original contract paid the Second Chance Animal Shelter about $100,000, so half of what it normally takes to run the shelter. Now we've gotten them up to a little bit more funding. The question about what our backup option is ultimately the city is required to provide that service, that public safety animal control service. If we are not able to find an alternate provider, then the city will have no choice other than to bring it in-house for the time being. I mean, the facility's there, it's a matter of staffing it. But one way or another, the service has to be provided. The analysis that we'll present to the council in September is, whether it makes fiscal sense to keep the animal shelter, the Second Chance in place, to find another service provider, or bring it in-house. Those are all options that will be considered at that time.
Thank you, City Manager. I just like to say, I don't think there's not a member up here that doesn't believe we need the service. We believe in the service. We think it's vital for our community. It has done well for many, many years since it first started. But like City Manager stating, we're now 2023 and it takes money to run a shelter. And I think that right now it may be possibly underfunded, because if we're looking to fund, like our chief stated, we have to put a police officer, maybe. How much is that going to cost if he gets injured, he gets bit, he gets hurt? Now we're talking about workers' comp. There's a lot that goes into play. So these are things that we are looking at, and we have to, take a look at the whole thing. So again, it's a service we provide. We're one of the only cities near our surrounding cities that provide this service. It's not something that we want to go away. We just need to look for some alternative solutions, and that's what we're looking at right now.
Yep.
So,
I'd like to just add to you what you're talking about in regards to, I think we're actually looking at, we're actually just talking about, right now, what we're talking about is extending a contract to an individual, agency that's running the animal shelter right now in my position. And I think we've made it clear that our position is, that is a service that we need to produce and we need to have to provide to our community. But there's a difference between providing a service and having an agency that maybe is incompetent of doing the service. And that's our job to make sure that if the competency level is there and the financial level is there. And in regards to saying if we're under budgeting our animal shelter, well, we don't know that if we don't have the financials. And we don't know that if we haven't done the analysis. And that's the reason why we're asking our city manager to go and gather the information. But let's look at this. This community has gone from 2012 to 2014, when we actually, lots of businesses united together and built that animal shelter. What if that animal shelter is too small for what we're providing? But let's go back and let's look at what we've done in the last 2 years. The animal shelter has gone to Kingsburg and picked up all their animals, gone to Fowler and picked up their animals, and has provided a service for them that's probably has not helped our service. So those are things that we have to run an analysis. Those are things that I know our city manager and our staff are going to work on and bring back to us. And we'll have to, but I will pledge this. If the city of Selma, the city staff is going to take on this responsibility, we're going to do every due diligence that we have to do to make sure that it will be a cost-effective, provided by a professional staff. One thing that what I hear every day is, social media, interactions between staff members and the community. This is a facility, this is an agency that we need to provide service to our community. And we need our community, this is our community's animal shelter. So we need to make sure that we run if we are going to run it, we're going to run it professionally, and it's going to cost the residents. It's going to cost because it has to be passed. And so those are things that we need to discuss and we need to analyze. And that's why I keep on going back and saying, I have a hard push giving somebody $30,000 if they're not going to do their due diligence themselves. So that's my opinion, but like Councilman Guerra stated, we all know our responsibilities in regards to the animal shelter. It's our responsibility for a service, but it's also, and I will say this also, I want to say it. Our city manager and our staff, that they were given this responsibility by the past. We should have been doing analysis 3 years ago. We should have been seeing this grow, right? So we didn't do it, so we're on it now. And he needs to gather the information, bring it back to us, and we need to make analysis. So my opinion, I just want the community to know that we are 100% behind the animal shelter. We just need to figure out a way to make sure that we can analyze it, account for it, show our residents that we're doing our due diligence, showing our residents that we are going to do a professional search and give them good, if we are going to handle it, we're going to do it professionally. And that's my opinion.
So I think you guys answered all the questions really that I had on this regarding the time and with that, I'll make a motion to approve it the way it is.
Second.
And then, yeah. Thank you.
Reina?
Councilmember Mendoza Navarro,
Yes.
Councilmember Trujillo,
Yes.
Councilmember Guerra,
Yes.
motion passes. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Okay, now we'll move on to regular business. And that is introduction and waiver of the first reading of a special event ordinance of Title V of the City of Selma Municipal Code as it relates to special events, food trucks, and vendors. And the proposed ordinance also requires appealing Title V, Chapter 7, peddling and soliciting. That's you.
Good evening, council. Before you is the proposal to waive the first reading and present the second reading at a future public hearing. At that time, you would consider, as Councilmember Guerra stated, repealing a section of the municipal code and replacing it with this proposed ordinance that has gone through public workshop. It has gone through a study session with your council to garner comments and incorporate all those comments and questions regarding the special event permit process. And before you, that we feel that this ordinance is inclusive of everything that the public described as, maybe hard to follow, what the application requirements were, and what the process actually is. So some of the highlights of the proposed ordinance: it has submittal timeframes, it has application requirements, it has insurance requirements, revised regulations for food vendors, it has additional regulations for food trucks, alcohol sales, as well as renewal provisions, which I believe is a new provision in the ordinance, that if you have an event that has been held in the city previously, that it would go through an expedited, streamlined review process. So staff, we've mulled over this for months. We've garnered a lot of public comment. We've revised application materials, which Amy will speak about as well. But we feel that this ordinance is inclusive of all the comments from the public and what the council has requested to be included, so that special events have a clear path towards review as well as approval. So with that, we also included some review of the application fees. The fee study that was done by the city 2019, staff reviewed some of the cost allocations to hours for review, and we reallocated some of those hours. So special events on public property sees about a $300 reduction, as well as special events on private property seeing about a $160 reduction. And for the public comment, for the member of the public who was here earlier regarding food trucks, there are provisions in the ordinance for food trucks within public right-of-way, limitations on 10 minutes within the public right-of-way. For vending on private property, such as, I believe Gazebo Gardens is not owned by the city of Fresno. So in that case, there is no limitation if they have permission from the property owner, as long as they follow the provisions of the municipal code. So they could apply for a special use permit to have a special event center that does food trucks or special events such as Gazebo Gardens. That is possible under this ordinance and the municipal code. So I wanted to clarify that when you're vending within the public right-of-way, it's a public safety and traffic issue, not necessarily the same as vending on private property or even on the city's public property. That's completely different. So with that, I'm available for questions.
Okay. Just on the special event, it says public property. Okay, so we're going from 945 to 650. Now we're talking about public parks, what the city owns. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
That would include parking lots,
Parking lots,
parks, any other facilities that the city owns, correct?
art center. Okay. And then give a definition of special event permit private property.
It would be an event held on a piece of privately owned land that is available for the public to attend. So if someone had a vacant land, piece of property that they had, let's say a carnival,
Mhm.
that would be, because it's not publicly owned, it's privately owned, but anybody from the public can attend. So I can go, there's not an invitation like a birthday party
Mhm.
or something like that. I've seen people come in and ask, my birthday party, do I need a special event permit? Well, no, because you have limited attendance. The entire public is not permitted to attend that. So we don't have to ask for any sort of licensing or permitting for food vendors or close the roads for a birthday party. But if I were to have a carnival on a piece of property that's open to the public, that's what this type of permit would be.
Oh, okay. So like in a parking lot, someone's private property.
Correct.
And
Like
they
if you
want
had
to
a
put
bunch of food trucks
Mhm.
show up, that would be,
They would
the
have to get
gentleman that
this.
came earlier, that would be the permit he would apply for on a private property if he wanted to do a one-time food truck event.
But what if they don't want to do it one time? Say they want to do it several days a week.
I believe there's provisions in here for limitations on how many times, but if it became like a permanent use,
Mhm.
that would fall under, I believe, the zoning code rather than the special event ordinance. So you would become more of a food court or something along those, an event center, which the provisions of the municipal code have maybe a conditional use permit that would outline how often they have that type of event.
And if I may add, I mean, the provisions for the limitations on how many times a particular event can take place on a public property exists in the proposed ordinance. However, it doesn't preclude the council from designating a specific property. Let's say the parking lot that we have on, is it East Front, that is underutilized in front of the police station, the old police station. We want to turn that into a place to have food trucks every weekend or every Friday night or whatever it is. The council could designate that location to fall outside of the regulations. And so that'd be something that as things are proposed, the council can consider individually as well.
And
Mhm.
your community service director, Amy Smart, will discuss some of the revisions to the submittal materials and checklists, which I believe she has copies as well to pass out.
I just have a quick question though before you start.
Yes.
So going back to the private property, so like the parking lots, I'm thinking about the one on McCall and Dinuba, that shopping center in there, that would be considered a private property. And so they would have to request that.
Correct.
Now, as far as I see that street closure fees, sound permit fees, fire inspection fees, and the police department, there's no charge for that. But
No.
would we still, or I'm sorry, no, I read it wrong. Thank you. Never mind. That's it. Thank you. I didn't have lunch today.
Good evening, council members. So before you, I have a typical packet that I've put together if someone were to come in. So for us, it's all about the customer service, right? Jerome did a fantastic job of creating the ordinance based on suggestions and all of that. For me, it's customer service based. So this packet before you is something that if someone were to come in and say, hey, I would like to host a special event within the community of Selma. This here is all inclusive of everything they may or may not need. Now, again, it's not going to be applicable to every special event, but we wanted to give them that information up front. So if they decided to make changes to it, they knew what would be expected of them. So on the right-hand side, and again, it's kind of organized, but you know, we may make a little change to it. It's always me. I'm always too loud. Okay, go this way. All right, so on the right, you will see very first is the application. Now, what we're going to be doing is really directing our residents and our community members to be submitting these items online. Jerome and I have been working out ways that we can utilize our current software to do these things that you're going to see right here on this form. However, we also have to recognize that not everybody has access to the internet, so we wanted to make this as easy as possible. One of the changes that I made to the very first application is up at the top, there is little check boxes. And yes, it does say for office use, but again, it's that transparency piece that says these are the things that may be required of you. So they know before they've even started to fill out this application that these are some of the items that they may need for their special event, again, depending on what that is. Behind that, you'll see the forms that we have for different permits, and you're going to see the temporary street closure permit, what's required of that. Also on the back, there's a sample map of, you know, this is what we might expect from you if you were going to request that closure. Behind that, the police department, that's the sound amplification. Here's what this is. Here's what the fee is. This is something, again, you know, they may or may not need, but we want them to have that information up front before they've even started. Behind that is your hold harmless agreement. There has been no changes to that. That's moving forward. behind that, you do have a community event food organizer application. The next couple documents are actually from the County of Fresno. So we would not accept these documents on behalf of the County of Fresno because we do not have the authority, but we will, again, give it to them up front, let them know what's going to be expected of them, and then they can turn that in to Fresno County as needed for their specific event. So that's all the nitty gritty on the right-hand side. On the left-hand side is really, I think, the piece that everybody's looking for. It's a very quick one-page front and back, everything you may need for your event and who to contact for that information. Again, this is just draft form. We're still comprising additional resources, but you can see if they have to, get event insurance, we've listed Hub International on the back. If they need to contact waste removal, there's the phone number, traffic control, event, or if they need to get their liquor license, their health department, all of the numbers are on one, little check boxes they can check off as needed. And then at the very end, we did want to make sure that we included, sometimes they just need additional information for more vendors. So we did include the Selma Chamber of Commerce as a contact and a resource for them when they're planning their special events. And then finally behind that, you're going to see a sample of some of the advertising. So really what this is all about is how do we educate the community about how we're going to roll out these new initiatives. So for us, it'll be a 4-week marketing strategy with 2 posts per day on social media, as well as our website. And it's just going to say, hey, these are the new policies. And then did you know, and all of the different things that they can do so that we're communicating what changes have been made and how it might affect them into the future. And then from there, once they've submitted their applications to the best of their ability within those 10 days, as stated in the ordinance, my department will be reaching out to them for that one-on-one consultation that says, okay, we've started to review your application. There might be some things that you need additionally. So again, on that checklist, I listed what they might need. So again, nothing is kind of off, they don't know where it came from. It's all listed here, everything. We went back and forth, checked the ordinance, matched the checklist, matched the application. We coordinated all of that. And that is my portion of the presentation. I'm open to any questions if you guys have any.
I'd like to just ask a few questions. Or do you want to go first? Okay. Just remind me again, I mean, I know because we want to be business friendly, and I know that these are events that, the citizens have been requesting, and we want to see these events, we want to see this kind of stuff downtown. But remind me again why it's going to take 90 days. We're asking for 90 days for them to submit the application.
Absolutely. So that 90 days is if they're requiring street closures, and if it's that sort of like a parade, things like that, because we really do need to take that into consideration. However, if it's a standard event, just your normal event without that, it's 45 days.
Okay.
If I could add, it's basically any item that may require also council action so that we can get it on the agenda before you, such as a fee waiver as well. So it's the items that require some sort of action beyond just approval of the event permit. We are placing 90 days as that requirement to ensure that we can process any other documentation, get it before the council if there's any action that needs to be taken by the council. So there's ample time so that we're not pressed at the end to try and get those items completed.
Go ahead.
So my question, I may have already answered my question, but not Pioneer Village, I'm sorry. Portuguese Hall, they have an inside event, but if they have outside event, then they have to go through this process, or like the Catholic Church or anywhere they have like a hall. Do they need to go through this process?
If it's advertised to the public and the public can attend and it's in excess of what their normal activities would be, such as a fundraiser, trunk or treat during Halloween or something like carnivals that are open to the public. Churches usually go through some sort of permitting process for, prayer service, funerals, what have you, that are typical operations to the church. So those type of events are already included. If they were to do something that was open to the public, they typically would have to get a special event permit as part of that.
And I'm thinking about, we just had our wine tasting at the Catholic church. And so I know that she had to go through the application, but I'm just thinking like, ahead of what to expect for next year, just so I make sure that I tell the board or, you know, our board to make sure that we do what we're supposed to do. So, okay, perfect, thanks.
I have a couple of questions. Are you done? You're good? Okay. Well, first of all, a comment before the question in regards to the 90 days. I think it's really important. I think we've participated in a couple of events and I think staff should to be fair and to give our staff the ability to show and shine. I think 90 days, I think any agency that's going to go out and do an event, investing money should already have should be a year in advance, right? Because it's costing money. That's one, but that's just a comment in regards to that because of, you know, seeing what the ability of what an outside agency or even a profitable business, right? I like the fact that you guys put in there 80% versus we're doing 100% acceptance of every vendor, if we want to close the street, we need 100%. We're at 80%, which is good. I appreciate that. In regards to the barricades, going and picking them up, that's good. I think to each his own. I think by you guys conversing with the agency, you'll know who's heading that part and doing the diligence. I say that because when we had the Selma Eats, we all got together and just picked up the trash and everybody helped, right? But in regards to those 90 days, you brought up something really important. You said, yeah, give them 90 days. So tomorrow morning, somebody decides to ask for a fee waiver. I just want to go back to that. You know, in order to provide a service, and this is a comment, in order for us to provide a good service to this community, to a newbie, a new business, a startup company, you know, it's going to cost our public works department the ability to go out there and pick up the trash cans. It's going to cost our police department to go out there and service that department. It's going to cost our planning department the ability to go and, you know, talk to people. I am really convinced that in order for the city of Selma to shine and make sure that we're providing a good service, we have to charge. If there is a nonprofit out in Selma that's saying that they need a fee waiver, they probably shouldn't do the event. And I say this to even nonprofits because of the fact that there is meaning to, you have to break some sweat, put some sweat in it to get a rate of return. And I'm saying this because I know the public's listening, but you know, we have to get away from fee waivers. You know, in one light, a conversation just before this, we're having in regards to the red tape in regards to the animal shelter, how we're going to compensate to take care of that. And the other rate, we're going to be talking about how we're going to want to structure a fee waiver to an agency that wants to come and participate in town. So I just voice this opinion because in order for us to give quality service, we have to have a charge. There has to be pay. Someone has to pay. So I just say that this is a great package. I think we put you behind the gun, Jerome, when we, you know, did it before the 90 days. I think 90 days is a adequate time for anybody, even a startup business, you know, and 90 days would be good just to put it out there. I think we put people on, you know, when we put them before the 90 days, then it kind of puts the city at a disadvantage. And, you know, I don't think we should do that. So, but I agree with this. This is a good format. I like the 80% to closing it downtown because, you know, I want to say this, you know, us owning businesses in town, we want to see more interactive. We want to see people walk there. Yeah, we don't have a lot of businesses there that will create that, but we want to see that vibe. And maybe it is going to be the fact that we bring in small little businesses to have that events downtown, but they need to put some sweat into it. They need to pay their fee to make sure that they can get that money. So that's all I got to say. Thank you.
Okay, I'll open it to the public. The public has any questions? And please come up. Okay, we'll bring it back to council.
I make a motion to, I guess, waive the first reading and bring it back for the second reading on August 7th.
I'll
The regular
second.
Council.
Councilmember Mendoza Navarro,
Yes.
Councilmember Trujillo,
Yes.
Councilmember Guerra,
Yes.
motion passes. Thank you.
I think with that, we will now go to our staff reports. And we'll start with you, City Manager.
Thank you, Council. Just notice to the public on Friday, this Friday, the 21st, we are doing a citywide employee training and staff breakfast where the department heads will be preparing breakfast for the staff and serving staff here in this room. And then we'll be providing some training. We'll also be going over the city's mission and purpose and several other things important to the organization. And so because of that, we will be closing City Hall to the public on Friday. And so just wanted to give the community a heads up for that because it is a full day of training that the city staff will be receiving. Other than that, just wanted to thank staff for all their hard work on all fronts. With the weather, being so hot, your Public Works Department is working really hard out there. The police, the patrol officers, absolutely. So just wanted to thank everyone for all their hard work. And cooling centers, I think Community Services Director will provide an update on that as well. Thank you.
Just a quick question, City Manager. What about for our phones? Would the phone line still be working for the public?
Yes, thank you. We will still be able to call into City Hall, just the doors will be closed because everybody will be in here in this room.
Next, City Manager or Assistant City Manager, Jerome.
Developmental update or development update. Dutch Brothers is open at Highland and Floral. I have seen some queuing out there in accordance with their traffic control plan. So it hasn't spilled out into the roadway yet, but they are open. So spread the word, let people know. So it's been a long time coming. I think it started in 2019. Coordination with the city, Caltrans, the developer, property owner. It's a long time coming, but it is open. So just wanted to pass that along to the public.
City Attorney.
No updates for me.
Okay. Police Chief Alcaraz.
Good evening, members of the council. Actually, just a few updates. All this paperwork here you can find. Good. Usually I'm last. So, I just wanted to, unfortunately, on July 12th, we had an incident here in town. 3 individuals were shot. We responded to the Selma Hospital for a subject with a gunshot wound. Our officers responded to the scene and were able to gather enough information to locate a possible location of occurrence. However, that has not been completely validated, though the evidence shows us that's what happened, because unfortunately the parties involved were uncooperative. That's why we have asked the community for any information they have regarding this incident. And we'll continue to take follow up on any leads that come our way. Additionally, on May 19th, our officers responded to a family disturbance. During the investigation, they found evidence of child abuse, after which we were able to locate information or evidence that there were the parents were involved in drug sales. Our officers froze the house, wrote a search warrant, and located a large amount of currency or cash to support the drug sales of the parents. Both parents were arrested and booked into Fresno County Jail for child endangerment, causing injury, possession with intent to sell dangerous drugs, and possession of methamphetamines. So that I want to say that because in both of those instances, they went to a very minor, I wouldn't say minor, but went to a call and had to really dig and take this information out from those people involved, and were able to kind of do some good, if you will. Additionally, just to put the public's at ease, on our 3rd of July event, I think we had about 10 or 11 police officers at that event. And I think that a lot of our citizens were a little concerned that maybe something was going on. However, all that was is precautionary. If you look at the news throughout the nation, and when we have large events, unfortunately, we have members of our community that kind of have either a vendetta or just want to cause harm. So that's why we had so many officers at that location to ensure that everyone felt safe and comfortable and could enjoy the festivities, because it's a great holiday we have every year for this lovely nation that we all live in. So, and lastly, I just want to let everybody know on July 28th from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m., we're going to be hosting Coffee with a Cop at Starbucks. So that's July 28th, 7 a.m. to 10 a.m., and that is a Friday. And that is all I have to report.
What was the time again?
7 a.m. to 10 a.m. It's got to do it earlier in the morning now because it's hot.
Chief, I had a question. I did get a couple of calls in regards to that incident that did happen with the shooting. And they were asking why a press conference wasn't done to inform the citizens that that happened.
What we normally do is put a press release and put information out to the media, social media. In that instance, we had almost no information because everyone was uncooperative. So the information we have is very minimal.
Okay.
And that's the reason for that.
I said, I'll ask.
No, and I understand. I will tell you, our staff is just as frustrated because that doesn't stop our investigation.
Mhm.
It just makes it more difficult.
Okay.
And getting up to speak with
Mhm.
media to say, we have no information.
Right.
Could you please call us?
Right.
And the media did a decent job putting that information out for us as well.
Okay. Okay, Fire Chief Peterson, out here, right here,
Chief. is on
Nothing
Zoom.
to report. Thank you.
okay?
Good guy.
Amy, what's her?
Community
position?
Services Director.
Community Service Director. Amy?
Hello again. And of course, I definitely have updates for you. First and foremost, I would just like to thank everybody who made the 3rd of July possible. We had over 1,800 people attend this event, and even though it was hot, even though it was a little humid out there, we are very pleased with the turnout. And again, a big thank you to the Chamber of Commerce, the high school, Public Works, Fire, PD. I mean, just everybody. Everybody was amazing. But a special thanks to Liz Martinez. She is our recreation supervisor. She did take point for this event, and I think she did a fantastic job. With what she had done. She also incorporated a children's area where there were games and activities for the kids. We had someone giving away free balloon animals, just a lot of fun stuff, some temporary tattoos. During that event, we also took the time to get kind of a survey going with our community. One of the things that we wanted to make sure we do as we expand our programs is really get that community engagement. So we were out there asking those questions and finding out what's important to our community. So big thanks to my staff and to our Public Works crew as well for everything that they did. I think the event turned out fantastic, and huge thanks to the police department. Those additional police officers out there just really kind of made the event, especially at the end when sometimes it's dark and there's a lot of traffic and people crossing the streets. Just having the police presence out there, I think, made a big deal in what we were able to accomplish that night. So thank you so much for that. A quick few updates for our department in the recreation department. Co-ed softball has started and we're in full swing there. I'm very happy to report that there is a team that did not win any games last year. So this year they named themselves Just Win One. And I am pleased to report that they did win a game recently. So kudos to them. They get very creative with their names, and I was excited that they can at least now say they just won one. We will be hosting a snack bar dedication on July 25th at 6 p.m. over at Schaefer Park. Carolina and Poppy Perez, we wanted to thank them for their 20 years of service to that snack bar and to our community. So if you guys would like to come out, we'd like to invite council and our community out there. Again, that's July 25th at 6 p.m. In regards to the cooling center, so in the past, we haven't had a lot of true consistency with how we've operated things. So police chief, fire chief, and myself got together. We kind of set some standards, how we're going to operate it. So what we've been doing is we've been relying heavily on ABC 30. Anytime that you see weather forecasted for over 105, we will have the Killeen Center open and it will be manned at the police department. If it's during the weekend, it will be manned by staff. During the week, obviously, we have staff there during the week. So we post those updates to social media. Thank you to Reina for helping us with that and all of the other departments that post that. So we do try to get the information out as much as possible. We don't see a lot of use historically in our cooling centers. And this was even previously when it was at the senior center, but we do want to make sure that is available if anybody needs it. So we will continue to offer that service. Again, 106 or above is kind of what we're looking at when we open that cooling center. And it is open from 2 to 7 during that time. So we do invite anybody that might need it to come on by. As far as the Art Center goes, I just wanted to give some really exciting news. We've really been working and I've tasked Nicolette to really start working on the data points that help us make better decisions as we start talking about economic development and things that we can do within our community. So she's been sending me some really cool reports with the help of her Arts Council, just in regards to how many tickets are sold, how many, where those tickets are being purchased from. So still going over the data. We've got that. We've got about 12,000 tickets per year is usually, it seems to be kind of the trend this last year. But one of the things that I found really interesting when we were able to pull they're able to pull who purchases tickets online by where they live. And we actually have quite a few from out of state. So it's fun to see that when people come in from other areas, maybe to visit family or something, that they're purchasing tickets and they're coming to check out the Art Center. So I'll have more information on that. I just wanted to let everybody know that that's coming. We have been working with the kids for Willy Wonka Jr. So if you guys haven't purchased tickets for that, that show is running July 20th through the 30th. And then we also have several workshops coming up. So again, if you guys want to check the website, all of that sort of stuff, that's what we have. And then finally, for our department, I am very excited. Liz and I and our team last Friday wrapped up our calendar of recreation, arts, and special events for the entire fiscal year. So you guys will get that at the next council meeting. That's including 6 new major special events, fall event, spring event, et cetera. 2 brand new sports leagues that we are bringing, as well as additional camps for children and adults within our sports. But that calendar is done, and our goal is within the next 30 days to have an online virtual brochure so that when someone visits our website, they can see all of the programs that we offer, some dates. Obviously, there's subject to change if there's weather or anything like that, but then have those event flyers. And I think the reason that that's super important is we want to get that done now and get that on the calendar so that, again, if we're talking special events from the community, we want to make sure that we have ours planned out for the next full year. So you guys will get that information at the next council meeting. I will have those dates for you guys. And then hopefully within 30 days, we will have a nice branded brochure that people can have with the goal of eventually printing that. Thank you again to council for approving additional monies for our marketing and our outreach, because then we will have printed copies. Everything will be branded, look fantastic. So again, it's very exciting to see the new things coming. So I really appreciate the opportunity. And then last but not least, just a little plug, happy anniversary to me, because Wednesday is 1 full year as community services. That's all I
Good
got.
job.
Thank you.
Okay.
Wait, I got Amy, congratulations on that. But I also, for all the good the Art Center is doing, I have a couple of questions in regards to that. For the good is, we prior to leaving out of state, I parked behind my restaurant and a lady pulled up, and it's funny that you say Willy Wonka. She pulled up and looked at me. She goes, "Listen, there's no parking here. Can you move your truck?" And I said, what about those 2 cars there? Can you move them? There was no parking, because it was so good. You guys had a good show. And I looked at it and I said, okay, I'll move my truck. And my guy looked at me and goes, "Dude, what are you doing? You're moving your truck." I go, "She's got to," and she goes in the alley and she drops off 3 kids. And right behind her, there's another lady, and they drop off 2 kids. So my question is to you in regards to, I understand, and I'm 100% behind the Art Center, but can we get to a point where our businesses that are open after 5 to 9 or 10, we can get some parking also? And there's no parking. You're doing such a great job. There's no parking. Everybody's parking in front of the businesses. And I think that along that we discuss bettering the Art Center, we discuss it to entail with our businesses that tried to even just open up for the evenings. I think it's a good gesture. I think it's something that, you guys, the Arts Board should talk about. And I say this to you, you should be happy because there's no park. Think of this, we have 3 parkings. We have one right across the street from the Art Center. We have one right by Allure. Anyway, we have one behind my business, right? I never could say this, but now the one behind mine is full. And they're also parking right by my, that open area. That's where we park. And it's been happening, right? So I ask you to maybe put a plug in and add some information into that. Also, in regards to the analysis that you're bringing up, I'd like to know how many kids are actually applying from this Selma, the community of Selma. And if we're not getting any kids from Selma, I'd like for us to outreach and start getting kids from Selma. And I'd like to entail programs to enhance our community.
I could not agree more. And that's really why we're asking for these data points right now, right? Because we don't know what we don't know. And so by getting these data points, by getting information from the softwares that we're utilizing, we can then make those decisions. Are we reaching certain, are we reaching our children or our teens or any of that sort of stuff? Now we can design and target those audiences through social media or through other things like that. But the baseline is what gives me that
That-
ability to then make those decisions.
That building is a catalyst for our community because our community, right now, we have a chief of police saying that, hey, we had a couple of people shot. There's communication. We could get these kids from our community into that center and start building them to be into any kind so they could speak to the chief of police and not stop talking to them. So I use that and I say that and we can create the community to come into this center and build from it. And I ask you to do that, okay? So thank you.
Absolutely.
Okay, any finance director? City clerk? Okay, city clerk, Reina?
Mayor, council members, and members of the public. So we have a few road improvement projects that I'd like to discuss. The Stillman Street and High Street Road Improvement Project has been completed. So now that we have checked off one off the list, we're adding another one, which is the Alphabet Street Road Improvement Project. That project consists of concrete improvement reconstruction, such as curb, ramps, and sidewalk. That project will occur in many different phases. So the first order of work is to demo and reconstruct the concrete improvements. The demo work will start on A Street and then progress to the other streets in sequential order. The streets will be closed to through traffic until the roads are paved, and the contractor will reconstruct one street at a time before proceeding to the next street. So, and the reason behind that is not to just demolish everything. Even though that would be more beneficial to the contractor, it's not going to be beneficial to the residents of Selma. So that's something that we've been working with the contractor to think about what the impacts would be to the residents. The following street segment will have a surface treatment application. That's B Street, Floral Avenue to Stillman Avenue, C Street from Floral Avenue to Stillman, and D Street from Floral Avenue to Stillman. So the surface street application will require the street to be closed and no parking until the surface treatment cures. The road reconstruction requires each road to be closed for approximately 2 weeks. So detours will be in place, and the road segment with the surface treatment application will require the street closure for 1 day. For 1 day at a time between 7 a.m. and 4 p.m. So the plan is to do some social media posting and some website posting of the initial project, which I failed to mention will start next Monday. So the initial thought is to publish that information on the website and social media initially, and then as the project moves forward in phases, subsequent postings will occur. So because this is about a 3-month project, it's going to be ongoing, and we're going to have a lot of residents calling in and wondering what's going on and how extensive this is and at what point it'll affect them. So we have, because we're going to be installing curb and gutter on some of the areas that do not have curb and gutter, that require some tree removals. So I know that our engineering department has been working really closely with our residents and having those discussions already and started having those discussions. I think when they started doing the engineering maps and other information pretty early on. And so I know we've received some phone calls from some of our residents saying, you know, I talked to this really nice engineer a couple of months back. When is it going to happen? I'd like to be around when they do demolish my tree, or remove my tree. But when is it going to happen? Because he talked such a long time ago to us. So that's a really good positive thing, is that those conversations we're having with residents, and that this kind of information is not coming up all of a sudden. So months in advance, these discussions are having with residents so that there's no surprises. The Barba Street Improvement Project that began on June 5th is moving forward and is scheduled to be completed on August 7th. The Cal Water Project is moving forward. So the Cal Water Project was a project that happened in a couple of phases. The Tucker Main Replacement, which was the new pipeline. The new pipeline has been pressure tested, loaded, and sampled. And as soon as they get the sample results, they will do the tie-ins planned for the week after next. And I say this because I got this information from Steve Johnson, who we all remember is now the district manager, and he left Selma and is now the district manager, but he is in attendance tonight. So we want to thank him so much for the information. The main replacement behind the post office is due to be tied in on Wednesday night of this week. So pavement restoration will follow. So the pavement restoration is that pavement in front of Tucker Street, that pavement on the alleys that we look forward to having all of that smoothed out and taken care of, and making our street and our city look amazing. So we know that Cal Water is going to do a great job doing that. Speaking of the construction project, on Friday, July 14th, during construction, damage did occur to the downtown street lights, causing an outage affecting street lights on Aaron's, on East Front, and on North Street. So, you know, we are working with our contractor and city staff to repair the issue as soon as possible. But in the meantime, those street lights will be out for the time being. And lastly, I did check in with Caltrans. The phase of their project is moving forward, and we're estimating that the next phase will happen in September, and that will be the closure of the next ramps. So I'm happy when the next phase will move on. That just means that this part is being done. Just we'll have to deal with all the traffic and all the detours, and just notifying the public and the residents of that next change, which will be exciting. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Raina. Any other staff?
City engineer, do you have any updates at all to provide to the council? Sure.
As Raina pointed out, for the Alphabet Street project, I did receive a call from a property owner that did meet with our staff asking about tree removal and things like that. And she just simply requested that she be notified because the trees, her house is over 100 years old. The trees are, been there for a long time. And she just wanted to be home when the trees were removed. So staff is aware of that. They're going to notify her beforehand. And that's the type of hands-on construction management, public outreach that the city clerk brings up, that staff wants to bring to all members of the community. If they have a question, if they have a request. We understand that that property has been in her family for years. And those type of things are sentimental, and we want to provide that service just so they can be there. It's a public improvement. She understands that the trees are disrupting the sidewalk, but she simply wants to be there. So the least we could do is notify her when they're going to be removed. So I just wanted to add that.
Good evening, members of the council. Just a couple quick updates. The Clarkson Lift Station project is moving forward. We did get some comments back from SKF and their consultants last week. We will be meeting with them tomorrow to go over those comments. The comments that I saw were pretty minor, some clarifications on materials. So they know that we need to get this process finished and out to bid. So we are working with them. We have a project going out, being noticed to the newspaper this week. It's the Valley View Storm Drain Project. It's phase 2. That's the installation of more storm drain work and additional work at the basin. That's a project that has been around for a while, went out to bid, and we had to get more funding. So that we're at that process, and hopefully those bids will come in. The funding for that is coming through DWR now, and hopefully we'll cover that project. But that'll go out to the newspaper this week, and we'll have a few weeks and then have a bid on that. Like Barbara Street, as Raina had mentioned, is paved. So it just hasn't been striped, but that project is on schedule and will continue to move forward. The light is still flashing red, but that's to make sure the traffic is controlled and we don't have any issues there. Just one other project I want to bring up would be Dinuba and McCall, the traffic signal. We are continuing to work with the project engineer, Gateway Engineering. They have provided a 50% plan set. That came in last week. So our staff is reviewing that. Technically, their environmental documents went to Caltrans months ago. They're still reviewing that process. So we continue to ask them for updates, pushing Caltrans, trying to get it's the NEPA is the environmental process that Caltrans has to review and go through for the right of way that's required. So
On Dinuba and McCall, you need Caltrans approval?
correct. They administer the project. It's a federally funded project, but they administer it. They're the agency that reviews that.
This project started in 2020. And you're telling me that Gateway right now has been doing the process. And right now Caltrans we're at this stage. Is it because Gateway just started X amount of months ago? Or has this project has been going on since 2020?
From the information that I've been able to find, it has been going on. Their last year, there was it's called the geometric design, GAD is what we call it. And that's where they are proposing the lanes, the shifting, how it's geometrically going to fit. So the engineering staff reviewed that I think it was October, provided that information back to Gateway. Then they go through surveys. Their traffic engineer has been working on it, working with PG&E. They have to provide a Rule 16. So it's a complicated project. I know it has been, from my research.
So
I know it's been a
complicated that
long
it's
project.
taken us almost 5 years. I mean, I want to get this project and I want to get this whole information and put a plaque and say, this is never something we should ever do again. But I'm gonna agree, and I'm loving this because it's probably number 4 and 5. And do you have any information? And because you're standing here, you're gonna help me out by checking off some lists here. What about the downtown revitalization that we had gotten approved through COG? Where are we at with that with Gateway?
The downtown ADA
ADA
improvements,
improvements,
correct.
yeah.
The council awarded that project. I believe it's RJ Berry. Our staff has provided the contract to them. As of tonight, we are still waiting for that contract back from them.
They're gonna approve it.
I've been working with Gateway. Gateway is contracted to do the construction management of that project, from my understanding and reviewing with the city attorney. It's in their contract to finish that project. So my office is working with them to schedule the pre-con. They know they're supposed to notify CDBG staff for the pre-construction meeting. They do not want to have the pre-construction meeting until the contract is in place with RJ Berry.
Okay,
So
and
that's what we're pushing.
so with those two projects and will you also be facilitating the review inspection along with them?
I will be overseeing.
You'll be
their
overseeing
work,
their work.
but
That's
they will be
really
responsible
important.
to do the daily work. Yes.
Just, you know, just really quick, this is what happens when we, as leaders, elected leaders, approve an MOU with an agency that asks to have an MOU along with the NMOU, right? Saying that, hey, we want to be your engineer, but we also want to be in charge of these projects. Isn't anywhere else, but it's here in Selma. These are the decisions these are our fault. You know, this extension is our fault, city council's fault for approving that. But one more, in regards, since I have you here, we've been speaking in regards to, CDBG. I know we talked it during the budget. Are we going and and I'm asking you because we hired him as our engineer. He's the overlayer, right, of all our three agencies, three companies. We've asked and discussed it with you in regards to doing an analysis in regards to CDBG, where it best fits in regards to not only just the alphabet streets, in regards to what are the higher points of the needs rather than just, okay, well, let's go through A, B, and Z, right? They would come out and tell us, hey, we're gonna do these streets, right? Well, are we gonna get in that area and start doing more of analysis of the needs and then bring it back to us and give us that, are we in that area?
So we've started developing a policy for prioritizing capital improvement projects and funding sources. And we had a meeting last week with another group in terms of identifying funding sources for future year projects. So in the grand scheme of infrastructure planning, we are identifying policies and a procedure that would come before the council to identify where the need is and how we allocate funds for those projects and how we prioritize those projects.
Thank you.
No
Thank
problem.
you.
Any other questions? That's all I have.
Oh, I just want to piggyback on the Dinuba McCall. Any time frame? Because, you know, we talked about how long it's been taking, but we know it's going to get here. Do we know maybe this year, next year?
Yep, so when I started in this role, I worked with Gateway and requested a project schedule. They provided a project schedule. I've been requesting them to update it as the months go by. Today, I sent them another email asking them to update the schedule, mainly for the time it's taking Caltrans to review, but then also the amount of time it took them to get me the 50% set of plans. So I'm constantly working with them to make sure that we have that schedule that's available. I can make sure the city manager sees that project schedule. As far as dates go, the Caltrans review of the environmental documents is the critical path that drives, once that environmental review is done, then we will be able to move into the phase of the right-of-way acquisition. The federal funding is broken down into three phases: the engineering, the right-of-way, the construction. That funding, as awarded by Caltrans through the federal sources, is available to us. We cannot move on to the next phase until the first phase is done as far as authorization for funding. So currently the schedule is the balance of this year is finishing that NEPA review, our office reviewing their plans and making sure that the plans are ready to a certain stage so that if the right-of-way is approved, then we can continue and approve their plans. That would be the early part of this next calendar year. And if the right-of-way acquisition is another kind of questionable, not questionable, but it's a process that I don't have an exact outcome because we're dealing with property owners, appraisals, there's things that are outside of our control. But that process should happen during the early part of this next calendar year. That's finished and has no issues. Then we should be able to, in the spring, if PG&E finishes their work, move pretty quickly then into the construction phase with Caltrans. That's the plan. That's the current schedule. But our office is staying on top of the project engineer as well.
Well, it sounds like there's a light at the end of the tunnel, so hopefully we're going to get there soon. Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Guerra, there was an item and it's easy to miss because it's a brand new item and it's at the bottom of the page. The future agenda items, and that's the portion where the council requests any new items to be placed on future agendas. That was on the second page, I believe, of the regular agenda.
Oh, future agenda items. Yeah, I didn't see that. Okay. So how should we handle that?
you guys would just propose any future agenda items you may have, and then you would need to get a consensus from the three of you to move forward with that agenda item.
I would motion to table it so that we can include the rest of the council members.
I actually had a couple items that I wanted to put on here. Kind of already discussed about the fee waivers. I just wanted to, look back at that. And
Oh, as far as the
The
resolution that was passed
resolution.
for fee waiver approval?
yes,
Okay.
well, I think it's the amounts is what I was looking at, or maybe even looking at well, just a discussion on the fee waivers for nonprofits is what I was looking at. And then the other one was I wanted to get an update on the special counsel that we had approved for one of the closed session items,
Bridget
the
Hanson.
attorney,
Mhm.
the special attorney. I wanted to get an update on that.
So if there aren't any other items, if council has consensus on bringing those back, and are those specifically for the next city council meeting?
No, they don't have to be to the next one. At least not the fee waivers, but I'd like to get an update, even if it's not a special. I'd just like to have all of us get an update on that.
There a consensus from the council members? Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now do we move to council reports? Blanca, you want to start? Blanca? Mr. Navarro?
Yeah, so I attended, I know it's been a long time, but I feel like I didn't do very much, but I did attend Dr. Fisher's retirement. It was really nice. I didn't get to really talk to her for the time that she was here, but it was nice to sit with her and just see her accomplishments. And so I did attend that. I did also attend the Fresno COG meeting and also the Fresno, the Transit Authority. And for Fresno COG, mainly it was a lot of discussion on the Measure C. And I know we're talking a lot about, all of the construction and things like that. And so one of the things that was really surprising was the reason why it didn't pass. It was mainly because a lot of people didn't know like what exactly they were voting for, right? So a lot of our residents, and so we really need to, as elected officials, I know we have, we can't really ask residents to vote a certain way, but basically just educate them on what it is. But it was really surprising that cities like Clovis and Kingsburg, voted no on this measure. And I think a lot of the information had to do, or the reason had to do with, I don't see any projects being done. My streets are still looking the same. They're not doing what they need to do. However, it does take a long time, just like you mentioned with the Dinuba and McCall intersection. It does take a long time for projects to come through, but a lot of it I think has to do with the agencies working together, partnering, making sure that we have the right policies in place and making sure that we're communicating with all the parties. But that was one of the major things that they talked about. So it was really interesting to attend that meeting. I also, like I said, after that, I attended the Transportation Authority meeting, and we talked about the new facility that's going up here in Selma, which is the Fresno Rural Transit Agency. Thank you. And so I hadn't unfortunately passed by there. I hadn't been able to get by there, but I ended up going that evening, and I didn't realize we had all of that property back there. And so it was really nice to see that. But I didn't know that they were having a signing of beams and stuff like that. So Moses didn't say anything about that. But that was what I attended. It was a really interesting meeting. I wanted to also welcome Dutch Brothers. They did open on, like Deputy City Manager mentioned, they opened on June 10th. Sorry, July 10th. July 10th. And I did have an opportunity to go down there. And the only complaint I had, which I don't know if city manager went by there today, but was I thought they had like the 2 lanes right at the window. I thought they had enough space for 2 cars to get through. Because I was stuck in line, had my drink, the car in front of me had a drink, and the car beside me and the car in the back of me had drinks. And there was somebody stuck in the middle. I don't know if it's because the car in front of me was a big truck and they couldn't get through, but that's the only complaint I had.
I did drive by. There's a little bit of a bypass lane there. It
bypass.
must have been just that car that was.
It was just a
stuck
big
or
truck.
something.
Yeah, so I just kind of made a little bit of a comment to the barista. I said, we 4 of us have drinks already and we've been waiting here for a little bit. As I mentioned before, the Selma Catholic Women's Club had their annual wine tasting fundraiser that was on Saturday, and it was a really nice event. If you've never been, we did have some local wineries that I didn't know we had, as many wineries as we had here, but we did have a lot of sponsors giving us some wine, and we had really good turnout. Also, I wanted to thank staff for just all the progress that, is happening in the city. I know we got a message about a citizen calling and saying, they're loving that the city is moving. There's, orange signs everywhere. And I'm getting a lot of phone calls. What's happening at Pioneer Village? What's happening at Pioneer Village? So it's good to see that the city's moving. And that's one of the things that I envisioned when I, ran for office, was that I wanted to see our city grow and our city move. And so I'm really glad that we have staff that's here that is moving those policies forward and, getting the work done. And then just a question on, are we doing National Night Out this year?
Yes, we are. We're moving it to the first Tuesday of October
First Tuesday.
due to the heat.
Okay. First Tuesday in October.
Yes.
Perfect. And that's all I have.
Councilmember Trujillo?
Well, first of all, I'd just like to thank all our staff members for all the hard work they're doing. Every department in one way or another is glowing. They're, they're growing their department. We're growing it from the bottom up. What does that mean? Organizational skills. They're actually setting up rules and regulations that's going to be efficient, that's going to help our city. So when we invest money and we put into every department, they're shining and they're educating our community members, because that's what it's about. We got to educate our community members to get them to a point where they're actually doing what the city needs and what we're working together as a team. I thank you, every individual of you that are working hard. I know you guys are all working hard. I was out of town for like about 8 days, and we're at 100. I was reading, it was 111, 110. I was at 91 degrees with the humidity. I was in New Orleans, and my shirt was just watered down every day. So I had 2 shirts every day, and I said, I would rather be at 112 than being here, right? And so I wanted to say that, my wife said, let's go back home. And I said, we can't. But, I would get on at night and see what's going on, and just to see the community. And, I did see the shootings, and it was really funny because Channel 26 put down, there was this incident, but they said, hey, these individuals don't want to participate and give any dialogue, right? I just want to end it with this. And first I want to do point of clarification. Was Dr. Shepherd, but was it Dr. Fisher? We had her retirement at my restaurant also, but we had Dr. Shepherd's retirement party at my restaurant also. So it was the same thing. And it was great because of the fact that we acknowledged community stakeholders from this community, thanked her because, go back to the Art Center. This is a big challenge we have as leaders. We have a challenge from the community members that we need to change the culture and start giving the thought process. So we have to put more weight and more pressure on our staff to get out there and do things, because we're in a big war, we're in a big fight, and we have to keep on doing it, right? So I thank you, every one of you guys, for all the hard work you guys have been doing. I'm going to say this because my dogs asked me to say this. Rudy, Chief, I apologize. I text you, but my dogs told me that if we could later down the road increase the firework citation from 15 to 1,000 to 3,000 because for the last 4 days, they've been having a heart attack and, and I really have a lot of pressure because my dogs are going crazy. So I really think that we need to do a little more outreach and, I just, I got calls from the animal shelter. People were dropping dogs off, dogs were just lost. And I just, I agree with, people celebrating. I agree with all that. But I also, you're looking at an individual that loves animals and dogs. And I just feel that let's just keep an open mind as to, I think that making sure that our community knows that what's right is right and what's wrong is wrong. And for that, I want to just let you guys know that, in the future, I will be imposing and asking if we can increase the fees because I believe that hitting people in the pocket will make them actually make it better. And it'll budget the police department more.
If I may, I have some ideas. I'm gonna run that by council and the city manager. But it's something that's on the forefront of my mind. And I'll meet with Chief Peterson and see what we can come up with.
I just want to end it with this. I was having and I need to say this, I was having a really nice evening at 100 and something degrees here after we flew in. And right behind my house, there was for like 10 minutes, the biggest fireworks that I've ever seen go off. And my dogs just go crazy. And I'm like, what do I do? And they didn't go for 5 minutes. They went for 10, 15 minutes. I got so upset because my wife was upset, not because I was upset. And I got in my car and I just went out there and I find these 5 boxes this big. They placed them out on the road on Orange Street and they went crazy. I mean, they were having a great time. But can you imagine it's after 4th of July and it's a Sunday and you're getting ready to go to work and this goes off for about 15 minutes. I just ask for a little more of a respect to our community and we need to get more involved. Just like that. I'll end it like that. So thank you guys.
Okay, I'll start off I attended the Central Valley Training Center graduation and it was amazing. It was nice to hear we had 3 graduates from Selma and that just really touches my heart, especially when there are people from Selma. And the other thing is it was the first graduation that we held at the Art Center and it was amazing. It was just done perfectly. And I want to say that's what we want to do. As Councilmember Trujillo mentioned, we need to utilize these facilities that we have because that was an amazing graduation and it really made a lot of people, especially the graduates or the candidates, feel very, very special. And it was amazing. And I have to say, that's what we need to do more of. And I really appreciate the working together by staff to make that happen. And I think we want to continue to look forward. I know I mentioned it to city manager that day that even, like job fairs, my understanding is that they held it at the Pioneer Village, no, I'm sorry, at the Portuguese Hall, right? Again, that's something that, they should be able to utilize there at the Art Center. I think that would just really be a good coordination with the city, plus all the, people that are trying to be out there and find a job and the companies that are offering business,
We looked at that facility for that event and we just had too many employers. We
Okay.
just couldn't fit them in the facility.
Oh, okay. But again, I just want to thank you guys, thank the staff because that was amazing and it really touched, I would say, even our I want to say, well, he's the actual person that runs it, Fernando,
Which one? I'm sorry?
for the Central Valley Training Center.
Oh, so it's, I can't remember. Garth?
Garth.
Yeah.
Garth. We should just say
Yeah.
Garth Bricks. He was just so at all, he was very pleased and he just thought that was very special. And so did the rest of the staff, all the other state employees there that are partnered with that. I thought that was amazing. So I want to thank you guys for that. And that's the kind of compliments we want to continue to get. I also attended the soft opening for Dutch Brothers, which was for friends and family. And it was really nice that they asked us to come by. And we took a look, we were able to take a look at the whole shop, and it was really, really neat, you know, for them to be out there and their staff. And I'll tell you, a few days right after, I mean, their lines are really long. So I have to say, I guess everybody really loves Dutch. So it was really good. I enjoyed it, and I thought the traffic worked out pretty well, considering, because I really thought we were going to get a lot of complaints, but so far so good. So I'll give you guys, you know, kudos to that. Also, I attended it was a field trip from a professor there at Fresno State that has students in like a maintenance department, and they came over to the maintenance facility with Moses Stites, the director there. And so they took them around the maintenance facility and also showed them our new facility that's going up, and which is amazing, because I realized, wow, they're really getting that moving. You know, that's going to be up pretty quickly here. So it was really nice to see that. And then I did attend the July 3rd fireworks show, and I thought that was a great job. You guys did a great job. It was, I don't know if it was that hot, but it was really nice. It turned out great. And again, you know, that's what it's about. You know, when you're saying, you know, we did something different, that's exactly what we're looking at. You know, we want to do something bigger and better every year. And, you know, it's something hot like that. Maybe next time we could do what they call those fun zones or a water zone, you know, where you bring all these water slides, you know, for kids. And I know that's what Fowler did. They do a $10 wristband and let the kids run out there. So that's kind of nice. And I really appreciate you guys really doing a great job out there. And okay, and then now I just have to do a little bit of housekeeping calls that came through. Already asked that. Oh, projects. You know, we asked for the project spreadsheet every quarter. And I know we just ended our second quarter. Is there any way we can get an update on that? Just so that we can have, because again, like we're saying, we get these calls, you know, what's going on at Portuguese Hall, I mean, at Pioneer Village, or what's going on at Cattleman's, or what's happening, you know, those are things that we can address right there and then. It'd really be nice to know exactly what's going on. Let me see what else. I think that's it for me. Yep. So other than that, any other citizens from the public like to come up and say any final words?
Teresa Salas, 1701 Dynamo Avenue. With regard to the July 3rd event, I know our club had a booth and we did very well. And normally the first meeting after the event, we sit down and we crunch numbers and find out what we did right and what we did wrong and what we could do next year. Were you going to do anything like that? And maybe meet with the groups that had booths there?
Yes, we will be. Liz will be sending out that information,
Okay.
but she will be doing it.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay. With that, our meeting is adjourned. Can I get good? Okay. Thank you.